welcome to this joint webinar between the European Water Association and Bentley on water resilience in a citywide context. Um, Before we start, I will start with a really short presentation, one slide about what is EWA, present you the rules for today, and then we'll move straight to the content of today's webinar. So first of all, the European Water Association. We are an independent, non-governmental and non-profit organization dealing with the management and improvement of the water environment. We have members from nearly all European member states. We have national members, corporate, such as Bentley today, that is kindly sponsoring that webinar. And we also have research member that will be, for example, Sylvia later on. We aim to be a platform for the discussion of technical and policy issues in Europe among our members, but also with other water associations and with EU institutions. And in order to do so, we arrange workshops, conferences, meetings. We take part in expert working group and also prepare some publication, active on social medias, and arrange webinar such as today's. A bit more about the info, the webinars from today. So as I said, it's sponsored by Bentley. Bentley developed innovative software solution for the enterprise and professional who design, build, and operate the world's infrastructures. And they mainly also works on wastewater and stormwater infrastructures and digital tools. As you can see in the chat, we will share the presentation later on today. If you have any questions, either use the chat box or use the Q&A box. You will not be able to raise your hand and switch on your camera, so please use those two. And so today's webinar will be divided into, let's say, two sessions. The first one will be two keynotes and then a roundtable. The first keynote will be done by Ioannis Kavadas. Just a quick info, he's unfortunately not able to stay till the end. So if you have any question during his presentation, please really use the chat box and Q&A box, and we'll take the potential question directly after his presentation. As we say, the presentation will be shared, and this webinar is recorded and will be shared on an EWA YouTube channel after it. You will receive all the info after per email. So Ioannis, you joined the EU Commission in 2007. You served 6 years in European Union delegation, initially in Addis Ababa as an infrastructure advisor, and later in Beijing as a head of section responsible for development and cooperation in areas as varied as SMEs, energy and environment, climate change. And in 2030s, you moved to the Commission Director General for Environment as a policy officer in the area of water management. And your presentation today will focus on food risk management in the EU, the perspective from the Food Directive. So Ioannis, without any further delay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Arthur, and good morning to the participants. I'm going to share my screen. And switch to presentation mode. Okay, should be okay now. So there are several slides, but we are not going to spend an equal amount on every slide because the good news is that the presentations are going to be afterwards provided to the participants. So in this presentation, we are going to talk about we are going to go through the legal framework for flood risk management as established by the Floods Directive, a good practice on flood risk management that we have seen over the years. We are going to discuss about the floods viewer. Then we are going to move to nature-based solutions and flooding, and then in the end there is one slide with a question of where are we going to go from here, since Arthur already raised the issue of water resilience. So the legal framework, okay, it's an Article 191 in the Lisbon Treaty to preserve and protect the environment, but also human health, and then prudent utilization of natural resources, and also combating climate change. All that makes sense. And then in 2007, the Floods Directive was introduced to establish. The purpose was to establish a framework to reduce, with the aim to reducing adverse consequences associated with floods. And the approach that the directive is taking is a textbook approach to identify, evaluate, and react to risk. And like with any risk management case, this is done in cycles due to the uncertainty and the changing nature of the risk. So comparing the risk management cycle, the textbook risk management cycle, with the floods directive cycle, we have on the left-hand side, under the classical risk management cycle, identify, evaluate, and react to the risk. And on the right-hand side, we have the correspondence of those steps under the floods directive. So preliminary flood risk assessments, flood hazard risk maps, and flood risk management plans. And you have the dates there. We are in the third cycle right now of the implementation of the directive. So in very simplified terms, member states make a flood risk assessment, and the culmination of this assessment is the identification of areas of potentially significant flood risk. We will return to this later on when we discuss the floods viewer. For the areas of potentially significant flood risk, member states prepare flood hazard and risk maps, for example, showing the extent of the flood, the depth, etc. Then the member states set the objectives and take the measures to achieve those objectives. So one step is based on the other. So first the assessment, flood risk assessments, then preparation of the maps, and once there is a better picture of the risk based on the maps, then objectives are set and measures are taken to achieve those objectives. And here on this slide you see the bigger picture, because there are several frameworks working in relation to flood risk management. So we have very widely the geopolitical and the socioeconomic framework, but then we also have the DPSIR cycle, which explains how within which framework the flood risk management cycle is taking place, and also the budgeting cycle, which provides the funding for the measures in the flood risk management plans, but also the policy cycle, because from time to time these directives, generally speaking, we are not speaking specifically now only for the floods directive, these directives are reviewed and potentially revised. So this is the general framework within which the floods directive is operating. So let's see then some good practices that have actually in most cases taken place. So we have now a clear framework for flood risk management. Responsibility is assigned unambiguously to specific authorities. All this helps to keep flood-related policy elevated within decision-making spheres. Unfortunately, from time to time, floods give a boost to this, but this shouldn't be the case. It should be that flood risk management is there as a fixture. A river basin approach is adopted. There should be coordination between plans of adjacent regions, and all the flood-related plans should be in one coherent document, or there should be a clear hierarchy of those documents. Attention should be paid to awareness, protection, and prevention, and preparedness and response. So it's not only about protection or prevention. And clearly, also in the aftermath of recent events, but not only the recent events, also in 2021 in the floods in Germany specifically, but also in Belgium, the awareness of flood risk amongst the citizens and various stakeholders needs to be improved. And this can only be by training the public, and specifically from a young age. So making public consultation about flood risk management the norm, we believe this is the case almost everywhere, strengthening the coordination and collaboration between different sectors beyond water, so civil protection, spatial planning, agricultural insurance, all these sectors are very relevant to flood risk management, and of course seek ever closer international cooperation in larger river basins, but also in smaller river basins. So in river basins maybe which have to do only with a couple of member states, transboundary ones. Obviously, setting clear objectives and sub-objectives for flood risk reduction is essential. Estimating the distance to achieve these objectives is important as well, no matter if the objectives, with the passage of time, need to be adapted because the flood risk is changing as well, also, but not only because of climate change. Selecting the right measures to address the objectives and connecting the measures to the objectives. So the one needs to lead to the other. The way to achieve the objectives is implementing the measures. Then be clear about the prioritization of measures and taking a long-term perspective for funding, because it makes no sense to start with a project and stop in the middle, or never start with a project at all because funding is not there. So securing the funding of measures, and of course keeping track of the progress in the implementation of the measures. Then new approaches to technologies. I will just mention satellites, sensors, the digital terrain. I will not mention artificial intelligence because everyone does, but obviously it's a new player. Understanding exposure and vulnerability of the in terms of urbanization, wealth accumulation, building codes. So uh, floods which in the past might have not had such a big impact now because there are so many assets in the floodplain, it is different. Systematically take stock of losses from flood events and estimating potential future losses, because this also makes the discussion with decision makers more credible. It's another thing, not knowing what's at stake. So what damage are we talking about? It makes the discussion way more credible if we can explain to decision makers, high level decision makers, what is at risk actually. So managing the risk of flash floods in urban settings, but also coastal flooding, which many member states are taking into account. But the question is whether we are looking far enough into the horizon. Understanding the impact of climate change, and last but not least, integrating nature-based solutions from the start. We will get back to this. So a few slides on the flood risk areas viewer. The flood risk areas viewer is showing in orange color, as you see here, the areas of potentially significant flood risk in the European Union, which were identified during the preliminary flood risk assessment that the member states have carried out. Currently, there is a bit less than 14,000 areas of potentially significant flood risk in the EU. And the way the EU works is very simple. Actually, it's a gateway, it's a platform to what the member states have produced, and the member states have produced a lot on around flood risk management. So through the flood risk areas viewer, the visitor can click on an area, on an APSFR, and then proceed to the national websites where they can read in their own language about the preliminary flood risk assessments, or go through the flood hazard and risk maps. And in this case here in the bottom you see an excerpt of the map for Paris and the flooding in green color. Now, because we had these really ugly floods in Spain recently, let's see what the how the floods viewer worked. So on the left, you see in orange the areas of potentially significant flood risk. This is an estimation, let's say. This is the entry point, the first step in the flood risk management cycle. And then in the middle, you see how the model has predicted the floods. This is a 500-year return period, um, fluvial, so river flood around the city of Valencia, and in yellow. And on the right-hand side, you see a print screen from the Copernicus Emergency Management System on-demand mapping, which depicts the actual situation. So if you compare the middle picture with the right-hand picture, you will see that the models worked pretty well. So the problem was somewhere else in the chain of command, let's say. Now, if we turn to nature-based solutions, I reversed the order of the slides because usually we show the literature in the end. But here I thought, there has been an astonishing amount of work already as I go through the slides on nature-based solutions, and more particularly on nature-based solutions in connection to water. And here is a short history, let's say, of nature-based solutions, with the term actually coming online not that long ago, but of course the background extending further into the past. Okay, we most of us we know what we are talking about. Basically, three pluses. So renaturalize ecosystems, make water as it used to be, so pristine, keep water where it is or slow it down, so let's say quantity management, and cleaning water, so quality management. And there is two clear bonuses out of nature-based solutions, all of the above together, so they are multifunctional and mostly there are no regret solutions, so regardless of how climate change evolves. Of course, nothing is a panacea in this world. So also nature-based solutions are not a panacea, but they have a distinct role to play in the flood risk management ladder. So maybe saving off the peak of the flood, for instance. And whereas mostly or more frequently nature-based solutions are presented in a context where there is more space available. They clearly also have a work in densely populated areas. So on this slide you see some information from the European Investment Bank, a report on investing in nature-based solutions. And if you look at they looked at several projects, 1,364 projects, and you see that 76% of those projects were in an urban setting. So they work also, nature-based solutions clearly work also in urban settings. On the question whether they are simple or complex, they are none of that and both of that at the same time. I would see them personally as another technology. The issue is that that technology, although as we know there is an accumulating a growing literature with a strong foundation, the technology has not made its way still into the design offices, let's say, of the project design offices. And there's no little wonder about that, because if we compare it to asphaltic concrete, for example, the asphalt on the layer on the streets, the top layer, then this was invented in the mid 1800s, but it took several decades until there was a widespread use of it. So it takes some time for new technologies, new ideas to enter the mainstream. But we are getting there. We are getting there. So the main message from our side is that also from an engineering perspective is that nature-based solutions, in order to be employed extensively, they need to be thought of as a solution from the very start of the project and not to be an afterthought. So from the very start, blended solutions, traditional civil engineering and nature-based solutions. Some challenges to furthering the cause of nature-based solutions. So insufficient awareness, yes, it will take some time. Possibly regulatory and policy hurdles. Accounting for costs and benefits, as we said before, these dimensions are important to make the discussion more credible. Limited workforce, knowledge and skills. This goes together with insufficient awareness. And the fact that they are not always standalone solutions, but this, we said, is something which we can solve if we consider them properly from the beginning, and insufficient funding so far. Although we see that, like in the example of the European Investment Bank, more and more financial institutions are willing to invest in nature-based solutions. So where could we go from here? So soon we are going to publish our assessment of the second flood hazard and risk maps and the second flood risk management plans. You have already the link there. The assessments are not there, but they will be, we hope, still in the first quarter of 2025. Before that, we are going to publish a report to the Council and the Parliament with already a lot of information from these analytical assessments. The third cycle of implementation of the Floods Directive is underway, 2022 to 2027. You may have seen that in the political guidelines, there is a new European water resilience strategy. We are currently working on this strategy. And the new commissioner which used to be for environment, let's say, is now more explicitly on environment, water resilience, and yes, a competitive circular economy as well. And in the letter, in the mission statement, in the mission letter that the Commission has received, the water resilience strategy will address water efficiency, scarcity, pollution, and water-related risk. I cannot say more on that. We are preparing an engagement also with the experts and the wider public, and you will hear more about this soon, I believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Johannes. I think, Alejandro, you had just put it a quick question in the chat. Do you want to say it quickly for Johannes? Or should I just... Yes, so I will just read it, Johannes, and maybe you can answer it if you want, can. So first of all, great presentation. It is absolutely essential to consider everything you mentioned in line with nature-based solution. How do you view infiltration issue with contaminants like PFAS, microplastic, and many other non-regulated pollutants? Thank you.
The PFAS is an issue that is climbing up the agenda, the policy agenda, clearly. I don't have any information myself now, but it is here to stay. So including also the dimension of where it ends up, and it doesn't stop there because it enters the water cycle and probably also the food chain cycle. So it ends up in ourselves. So it's high on the agenda. I believe it will stay high.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for Johannes? Otherwise, we will slowly move to the second keynote presentation. Thank you, Johannes. It's been a pleasure. As we say, we will share the presentation for the participants. If you have questions after it, do not hesitate. We can also share them with the speakers after it. So thank you again. Now the next presentation will be done by Christine Ballarin. You are responsible of the Water Resource Planning Office at the Environmental Department of City of Milan. You work on concrete action for the development of a water resilience plan with the aim of protecting the territory from flooding using water resources for energy purposes, decreasing drinking water consumption, and optimizing water use in agriculture. You are currently working on natural-based solution for climate change adaptation in urban context, and you developed in collaboration with the Milan metropolitan area, the integrated water service, the guideline for the design of sustainable urban drainage system for the city of Milan. And on a slightly different note, the City of Milan and the European Water Association Secretariat, we are also together part of an Interreg Alpine Spain consortium, merging management for groundwater sustainability in urban areas, quantifying the vulnerability, groundwater quality and quantity to climate change and urbanization, and developing adaptation measure for cities. And today, your presentation will be water resilience in a citywide context, hydraulic protection project in the city of Milan. Christine, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Goodbye. Good morning to everyone. I will share my presentation. One moment, please. Okay. It is working? So
perfect.
Okay. Good morning to everyone. I thank Johannes for his presentation because it was very great, and Milan is inside one of these area of potential significant flood risk, and so we are dealing with flood risk since the 80s of the city of Milan. As you know, is inside the Po Basin. In the north we have surrounded by the Alps. In the north, in particular, we have the Alps, and in the south we have the Apennines, and we are on the northern part of the Po River. So the city of Milan is crossed by several rivers that goes from the north to the south. Here we have some photos of the with the flooding in the city. This is a problem of many cities in the last years. And here we have what I was telling you before. The city of Milan is crossed by many rivers. In particular, we have on the eastern side the Lambro River. That is on the is the only one that is open air. The other two, the Seveso and the Olona River, cross the city but are fully, totally intubated. And then we have some irrigation channels, and we have in red, the red one is a diversion channel for flooding protection that was built in the 60s with the aim of intercept all the flood waves that are coming from the rivers from the north, and to bring this to the bring the water to the river Ticino River that is on the western side. You can see it on the picture because it's far away from the city. We do a three-dimensional, 2- and 3-dimensional hydrological and hydraulic model, and we defined the hazard classes. So you can see that a good part of the city area is interested by high hazard flood risk, and in particular very frequent flooding. In the 209, the first agreement, hydraulic protection of the agreement for the hydraulic protection of the city of Milan was signed between the Lombardy region and the Milan metropolitan city and the municipality of Milan and the river authority, the Po River Authority, and the entire project. And the result of this agreement to protect the area of potential significant flood risk, all the area you can see in the picture. The entire project includes more than 17 detention basins for flood protection and 6 floodplain area. The city of Milan is on the south of lower part of the picture. All these basins are on the rivers that on the upstream part of the city. Only 2 of them are inside of the city of Milan. Another way we are, and I will show you these 2 interventions that we are that we have already implemented in the city. Another way we are facing the flood risk is obviously an alarm, early warning system for the 2 rivers, Seveso and Lambro River, to inform citizens about the risk of flooding of the water in the city and about the danger in adverse weather conditions, not only flood, but also heat and heavy wind. And oh, sorry, the presentation isn't. I don't know what happened. Okay. This existing alarm system is for all landlines that are in the public register of the city and that lives inside the flood risk area that I showed you before. Who answer the call will listen to a pre-recorded voice message informing them of the situation and providing also a guidance. For all the mobile phones that have registered on the alarm system, through an online form, in case of risk, they can they are advised, and they can also hear at a pre-recorded voice and all the information on what is going on. There is also an app of the civil protection. You can whoever one can download it, and it's free, obviously, and you can have news and updates in real time. And then we have also internet and social media that inform and updates in real time the situation of about what is going on in the city. I will show you now the two most important infrastructure that are in the city of Milan. The first of them is the detention basin of the river, of the Seveso River. It is a basin of 250 cubic meter, 250,000 cubic meter. It was opened in the 1st of June of this year, and it is most of the year a lake inside the park, and it is an area that is where people goes during the weekends. It's very nice there, and the lake is filled with groundwater, with clear groundwater. For the most in the year, and in case of alert, the floodgates that brings the river through the city, because this river is intubated, the floodgates closed, and the basin is filled with the water of the river. With the water of the river. After the wave is over, the water is pumped again inside the river, and the basin, the lake, is cleaned and from all the debris, and then refilled with the groundwater, with water coming from the groundwater. That is clear, because the quality of the Seveso River during the plain is not so good, because it's the most of the water is coming from the overspill of the sewage system, because in Italy, in the north of Italy, we have most of our sewage system is a mixed one. All this operation from emptying the lake, filled if during the floodplain, and empty it again and clean it, last about between 3 and 6 days. It's not a short operation. Here we have another intervention on the Lambro River that flows through the eastern part of the city. It's a different kind of intervention. It's not a basin, it's a floodplain areas. And the aim of this project was not so much to reduce the hydraulic risk, but to return the river to the citizens, and to give an area, degraded area, back to the cities, and to use this area not only as a park, but as a park for the river, not a park river, but a real park for the river, where the river can overflood. And the aim was to avoid all other illegal settlement, because in the past this area was an illegal settlement. And the aim was to inspire also new conversion of a large area, obviously to reduce hydraulic risk, and also the aim was to improve morphological and ecological condition. This is what it looks like last year, and now the area is under construction. This is how it will be. Very simple. The embankments that goes along the river are moved to 200 meters on the left side. So all the area that was also polluted was excavated and bring the wind, so to have more volume for the floodplain. And so this was a remediation project and mitigation for risk project, with buffer intentions. We have also a little lake for birds, and this area will be how to say, I can't remember the name of a little lake. And here you can see some cross section of the area. Here some picture how it's looked before and how it will look in the project. The works will end by the end of 2026. Another measure is that we have in the city of Milan is a specific alarm system inside a park, because we have a very big park, Lambro Park, near the Lambro River, and we install some optical and acoustic alarm inside the park. They are activated when the water level comes to a certain level, and this acoustic alarm is activated, and everybody that is inside the park has to leave, and there are signs with the evacuation path for the evacuation of the park. Obviously, we are not only dealing managing flood risk with this big infrastructure, but also with and easy early warning system, but also with a program of the sealing, the pavement of gray areas, and using sustainable drainage system with MBAs. This is an example that we have realized 2 years ago in the city of Milan. It was parking for cars in between 2 rows of trees, and now it is a rain garden, which all the water coming from the street is goes inside this rain garden. But we have a particularity, because this we have the first flush of the water coming from the street. This doesn't go to this rain garden, but the first flush goes to inside the sewage system and to the treatment plant. Only the second flush, only the second rainwater that is not polluted can go inside this rain garden and then infiltrated into the ground. Here are other examples of rain garden infiltration trends that we have in the city, and here some example of the pavement program in the city, using these are all gray areas, and we deseal the soil and implement other permeable pavements or permeable concrete or other permeable pavement. I think this is okay. I don't want to. I will leave. Will take more time for questions that are.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think it's always nice to have first presentation more what the EU legal framework with Ioannis, and then to see what's like an implementation at the local level, especially in such a big city like Milan. I think if there's any questions, we'll take them after the one table. I think we'll move directly to the one table, where we will be joined by 3 other speakers. So I will kindly ask all of you to switch on your camera. We'll be joined by Cecilia Correa. You are a Senior Water Solution Manager at Bentley, and you are part of the Bentley Water team with a focus on digital solution and partnership. And you aim to support empowering water utilities and cities to become more efficient, resilient, and water-wise. We are also joined by Dr. Silvia Venditti. You hold a PhD in chemical engineering from the Imperial College in London, and the topic of your doctoral study focused on thermochemical characterization of crude oil fouling in close collaboration with industry. But then you, with the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology, you acquire experience in wastewater management, and you are currently a research scientist specialized in nature-based solution for one, the removal of micropollutants using non-conventional material produced in a circular economy perspective, and two, the reduction of drinking water consumption in public building. So thank you again. And last but not least, Alejandro Stoniolo, you are currently the General Secretary of the Water Positive Think Tank, where you focused your research on water positivity since 2021. You are also former VP of the International Desalination and Reuse Association, and you had held leadership position at the Latin American Desalination and Reuse Association and the Argentine Desalination and Water Reuse Association. So thank you very much for the three of you to join us today. And I think I will let the three of you, I would say 2 minutes to maybe if you want to highlight a bit more your focus point. So I think I will start with you, Cecilia.
So hello, everyone, from Lisbon in Portugal. First thing I want to do is to congratulate the two presentations that were done before. I think the city of Milan, they are an example to follow, and they really touched upon many of the things that Ioannis was talking about in terms of stakeholder engagement, in terms of nature-based solutions, how they would work together. So all these things are very interesting when we see them in paper, and sometimes we don't understand, but having an example like the city of Milano showing case all of the efforts that they have been doing is very interesting and important to show to the communities that they can also take a step on that. So I come from a technology perspective and point of view. I mean, we have seen technology in place, and one of the things that I'm always saying is that even though technology, it will not solve everything, it will for sure be a key enabler for setting up and testing some of these solutions like Christine was presenting. I mean, we can see that our cities have grown, they have changed. I usually say that it's not like we did a lot of mistakes in the past. We now realize it was a mistake, but at the time we didn't. So covering rivers and changing the way that I usually say that the nature is a natural infrastructure that we somehow fail to understand, like the natural floodplain areas. So what we're doing today is actually giving back to nature what we understand that is the need. And with this, but it's not, we cannot do that from one day to the other, like change just the city, right? So what we need to do is actually make use of technology, of the data. I mean, it gives us a lot of value to help implement some of these rules, some of these insights that we want to understand, what will happen. So I usually say that today we don't have to construct to see. We can actually test before, understand with different scenarios and be better prepared. We will never be able to predict every extreme event that might happen, but we can for sure be better prepared if we can use the technology to do that.
Thank you. Silvia?
Hello, everyone. I'm also very pleased from the two presentations from Christine because I'm Italian, so I'm really proud. And even if I'm not in Italy since more than 20 years now, and from Ioannis because I'm also a strong supporter of policy implementation. Just to tell you a little bit about my background, yes, I'm a chemical engineering, so for years I was focusing on big hardware to clean the water. So because my main research interest is about mitigating pollution. But in the last years, I focus on nature-based solution, and I found myself really having the revolution of my life, I would say, because relying embrace nature, using nature in an engineering point of view is really rewarding. So I'm strong, I'm a believer that we can do that. And yes, Milano is a clear example. There are many other examples around Europe. And in Luxembourg, we work a lot. We try to combine the several advantages of a nature-based solution, not only to mitigate climate events, but it's possible to do both, mitigate climate events, but also to reduce the huge amount of pollution that we have every day and that it's almost not possible to control. So, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Alejandro?
Hi, thank you. Good morning, Arthur. Thank you for the opportunity and congratulations for the two presenters. I will represent the Water Positive think tank. For that reason, I want to take advantage of the presentations, how to create a positive impact, taking into consideration the two presentations. As Sylvia, a huge fan of nature-based solutions. And I think when we talk about nature-based solution, we only talk about quantity of water. And when we talk about CO2 compensation, we always focus in only one dimension, quantity. I think we have replicating the same than CO2. And with water, we have three dimensions: location, quality, and quantity. And for that reason, I want to pay attention to quality. What's happening with pollutant that we are creating that the nature can't digest? For example, we were talking before, PFAS, microplastic. For that reason, I truly believe that nature-based solution will be complemented with technology, because it is quite confused. It is confused when we talk about natural-based solution. It's not only related with put grass or something that we did 200 years ago. Technology comes, actually what we are doing with natural-based solution is based on science. For that reason, it's very, very important to pay attention to quality. And more important, last but not least, it is very, very, very important for companies claiming nature-based solution. What's happened with a company operating in a aquifer charge? What happened tomorrow if we find a new pollutant in that aquifer? You are claiming that aquifer is treated by your own. For that reason, it's very, very important to take into account not only the legislation that we have today, we have to think one step ahead in the future, what will be the regulation in the future.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the three of you for the short, let's say, introduction presentation. I think, Ioannis, I will go with you maybe with the first questions. Actually, I would say I have two, and maybe you can pick up the one you want before you go. So I wanted for you maybe to develop a bit more, even though you had it in your presentation, how the Commission is supporting member states regarding floods prevention, but also in post-event situation. I think you show us the models and all of it. And because of it, that's, I would say, my second part. How do you see or what do you have in mind to raise citizen awareness about all the flooding trends, all the data that is available, but I would say that the citizens are not necessarily aware of? Thank you.
Now I'm unmuted. Okay. I would see three stages when it comes to flooding, but also more generally for any disaster. So before, during, and after. And I believe that we have at the EU level we have covered. I will not say 100%, but we are striving to cover all three of them. So the flood risk areas viewer gives an entry point and raises awareness of the population, because then you are in or close to an area which might have an issue with flooding, and then you can find more information about it. So be aware of it. Then before a few days and also during the flood event, we have the European Flood Awareness System. It's part of the Copernicus Emergency Management System. This one is not addressed to the public, but it is contributing to the messages or to the understanding that the national public authorities have. Whether it will extend to the public in the future, this is the discussion that maybe will take place. It's not within my immediate area of work. And once there is a disaster, once there is a flood, we have the Emergency Response Coordination Center to coordinate the assistance, and of course also the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, because in some cases the member states cannot respond alone, in which case they are seeking the support of other member states. So to respond during the flood, and after the flood, we are trying to introduce some flexibility in the cohesion funding so that the member states can mobilize some of that money in reconstruction efforts, in build back better efforts. And there is a solidarity fund as well, which is there since several years. So from before the flood to after the flood, there is support and tools at the EU level to help with adaptation and responses. Now, as you said, reaching the citizen, the further away you go from the citizen, in Brussels, for instance, is a bit more difficult to reach the citizen at short notice. To reach the citizen at times outside the crisis, this we can do. The member states do it as well. That's why I was referring previously to the public consultations. These are very important. The problem with flooding is that once the event is over, those, of course, who have been affected directly, this is a traumatic experience. They will never forget it. We can only hope they will overcome it. Those who are not affected, the memory fades after a few years. Research says after 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So there needs to be a continuous reminder. And I would think better to develop the reflex from an early age, so at school, when pupils since decades already learn about the water cycle, they need also to start learning. I'm not saying it's not done, but on a larger scale basis. They need also to start learning what happens when let's say, what the water cycle fails, to put it in not scientific terms. So the droughts, which translate into water scarcity, and heavy rainfall, which translates potentially into floods.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, fully get your last point. I think we know, for example, in Japan, pupils learn what to do in terms of earthquake from, I think, first class. Potentially could be something to take some inspiration. Thank you very much, Johannes. Cecilia, just to bounce a bit on the questions, we talk about prevention mechanism, and you had mentioned digitization, let's say data analysis, but what could be the impact of digitalization to have a prevention mechanism?
One of the things that Ioannis was talking before was about, citizens and the engagement. And the fact is that today we're all connected. We live in a connected world. So people expect that they get more information, that they have access to more information. They want to be prepared. And the floods in Spain, they were mentioned. I mean, a lot of things happened, of course, but one of the things that people came out, very traumatic, of course, and they came out and they were demanding, answers in terms of why they were not somehow prepared for this, right? They live in a city that is crossed by a river. They should be better prepared. And this is where I think, that technology will really give a big step in the next years, because people could actually be better prepared if they have access to some of the information and they know how to act. They know where not to go. For example, they should have the information that you should not go to a garage to pick your car, because that's where it will get flooded, right? This type of information you need to have. But at a more civil planning perspective, for example, what I see is that all the infrastructure is connected. I mean, we all recognize this. Infrastructure is all connected, but we keep seeing a lot of silos. So people are doing things in very siloed ways. And the way we need to do this, and the examples that we have seen with the previous presentations, was that we need to collaborate. Collaboration is essential for flood prevention. And the way I see is that in terms of technology and with the power of, for example, the digital twins that can connect all of this, it means that when civil protection are doing plannings, they can actually take into account information from traffic. They can take information from the flood levels. They can identify which areas they need to evacuate or which roads will not be closed. So it's not only from pure flood water system that they understand, but also how does this relate to the other infrastructure. And when it comes to, for example, and I think this will also support when it comes to share costs of preparing the city, because if the metro gets flooded, they will also have damages, right? If the roads are closed, there will also be damage on the transportation side. If the energy, the stations are shut down due to energy, they will also have damages. So why not all come together and find common ways to solve this in a way that will mitigate at least the risk and improve the insights or the way that we collaborate between each others.
Thank you. Silvia, I think I will go to you now. And what was just mentioned, also this working together, of course, you have your focus on nature-based solution. And can you maybe a bit develop more the roles they can play in the cities, but also how to, let's say, have them working together between these blue, green infrastructures and gray one?
For sure, I come more from the water quality domain. So nature-based solution for us have been implemented or have been seen in the city with a role that really allows helping resilience, but also circularity. So valorization of resources. So if we are in line with the topic of this webinar and also the expertise of the keynote speaker, definitely they can be applied for water retention, in particular rainwater, stormwater runoff. But as I said, we change a bit the perspective. Before, retaining stormwater runoff was focusing at the main aim to retain the volume of water. Now we realize that this water can be highly polluted, not only from PFAS, but also from tire wire additive, for example. There are many elements present in the stormwater runoff. And so a well-designed nature-based solution could retain the water temporary, but could also help the discharge of this water and surface water by the, let's say, treated. And this is possible. We demonstrated that is possible. In really urban city. I mean, another application very well known is the one of the green roof, which or the green corridor, which are highly encouraged today because they help to keep the humidity, to decrease the heat, and to vehicle ventilation, but they also bring back biodiversity in a city environment. We saw some picture from Christine. You could directly imagine already how this can restore back biodiversity. And then I also said that nature-based solution can be used as enabler for circularities because we can valorize non-conventional resources of water like wastewater. If we implement a nature-based solution in buildings, we treat grey water, we could reuse the water for other purposes. So actually the application of nature-based solution in the urban context are huge. It's extremely versatile, extremely resilient. There is an engineering to do. Yes, Ioannis is right, it goes together. But yeah, the applications are huge. And we see that also the urban, newly recasted urban wastewater treatment directive promote both green and blue nature-based solution infrastructure. For me, where is the bottleneck of the implementation is always the main point. For me, is in the context of water quality is to make sure that we can ensure always good water quality, that is possible to control the implementation, but also that are well perceived the nature-based solution from the social acceptance.
Yeah, thank you very much, Silvia.
Thanks to you.
Alejandro, I think you see you active and reacting to everything that says. So I think instead of potentially asking you directly a question, I will just let you have the floor for 2 to 3 minutes if you want to rebounds on what was said before and also the micropollutants. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. No, I try to put my 2 cents in every single, because when you have a good presentation, you don't have too many things to add. And actually, we were discussing in an internal WhatsApp group with 145 people in South America. We have a lot of people from South America now. It's very early there. And Silvia, is very good. Actually, the question I received was before your last presentation. Some people was talking about, greenwashing, and sometimes we confuse greenwashing with the typical action in some companies only presenting a picture about something. In this case, as Silvia said, you are applying engineering, you are taking measure of every single step what you are doing. If we can measure something, it is not greenwashing. We have to differentiate greenwashing with when nature-based solution or desalination or reuse. If you can put a number on that something that you are doing, it is not greenwashing. Actually, what we were doing before or for many years was greenwashing, just because we were not taking care about water resources, and we published a picture of a kid in Africa drinking water. This is greenwashing, when you are showing an image of something without doing anything. For that reason, I'm very happy to participate in this event, in this webinar. Silvia, your presentation was very good. We need to know more about nature-based solution. Actually, something that I led a presentation with you guys. Something that we truly need, we strongly need, is to connect dots. We talk about CO2, we talk about water, we talk about different things at the same time, but in different ways. And we need to integrate everything. We need nature-based solution to feed with reuse technologies, with desalination, with carbon sequestration. Everything is related with everything in a city or in a new region that we are developing, because without water, without blue, there is no any green. For that reason, water is the key of the sustainability. We forgot it for many years, and we have to come back to the nature-based solution, but through science.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. And Christine, questions for you on everything what was said based on the presentation. Also, you heard from Ioannis and the intervention from Silvia, Cecilia, Alejandro just now. Is there something that struck you, or that you, when you heard it, when you thought, "Oh, I would really like to see it implemented in my city," or if you, yeah.
Everything that was said before is very interesting, and we are already trying to implement it, but it's not so simple because of fundings, principle for fundings, and also because in particular for nature-based solution, we probably don't have so much know-how of the managing and the maintenance of this nature-based solution, because it's easier to have only one big treatment plan, and the costs are lower to have only a big. But we want to have a nature-based solution widespread in all the city, but it's a matter of maintenance of all these and we have to change our way to manage the city with our water service provider, which deals with these issues. And yes, we have to change completely our mentality, not only in designing and planning and designing, but also for the second part, the maintenance of all this infrastructure. So yes, we have a great program of the paving, nature-based solution, draining, sustainable urban drainage, but not only the maintenance, also this in a big city like Milan, where we don't have much free areas, it's also not too simple to have also this often is seen as soil consumption, where we can manage flood rain inside a park, but nobody wants to give a little bit of our park for flood managing. So it's not so simple. We are trying to arrange everything and to create a good compromise between all these issues.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I think the only way is to have multifunctional areas. So a park that can be overflood, and areas with nature-based solutions that are also a children park or something mixed with mixed function. This is the only way, I think, in a so urbanized cities.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, no, for sure, definitively. And I think it come back also to like the first question to Ioannis, also then on awareness and citizen awareness. And if you have, as you mentioned, a park that will be used or that can be used in terms of extreme events as flooding protection area, normally, as you said, people don't really like it to have it next door, but I think it's also a good case to show what's done in terms of protection for the citizens and to raise awareness on this type of event can happen. And usually everyone is really happy when it's happened, but it's working out at the end thanks to this solution. I think Cecilia, I also like your point on digitization data and what you said on it's not really mistake in the past. In the past, we thought we were right. Now we saw we were potentially wrong, at least on some aspect, and tried to correct it. But I'm also curious to see if maybe in 50 years we will not think again and look at what we are doing now, if it's still again not wrong. So yeah.
That's an interesting aspect. And this is something that I'm always saying, that we live in, I mean, in a dynamic world. So everything is changing. We know more today than we knew before. And in the future, we expect to know even better. So I think the goal here is to be active, don't be so reactive, right? But try to be more proactive in finding some of the answers. Christine mentioned so many things, just when she talked before me, when she was talking about multi-uses of, for example, a parking that can act as a pond in some cases. This is exactly what I was talking in terms of the connected infrastructure. So we need to somehow, have some compromise between everyone, because when we talk about costs, I mean, there are things that are costs, and the other one is the value creation. So some solutions may be more expensive, but what about the value that is creating? And sometimes when I hear people say, oh, this is more expensive, I usually say, so what is the cost of not doing this? Because people tend to not put a cost on something that is already there, instead of thinking, okay, this will cost me this, but in the future, it will actually improve the way that I'm doing things. And the other thing that Christine was, when she was talking about all of these aspects, was the value that she's creating for the city. It is, when we talk about what is the function of a city, the responsibility is to maintain a safe city. And this is why we talk about resilience, because we want to make sure that we reduce the risk in all the aspects that we are responsible for managing. And this includes, flood response, but also create mechanisms to create this more livable city so that we can attract people to go and live, because that will also define the profile of the people living there. And it is so interesting how these aspects are all together. And of course, today we have this possibility because of, that we are, as I'm always saying this, and it may look like, it's a repeated word, but we are connected. And this means, collaboration. This means integrated infrastructure. This means technology to support. This means citizens engagement, stakeholder engagement. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Before going around to ask you for a last statement for 1 minute, we have 3 questions on the Q&A box. So we'll take one, I think, Ioannis, I think that will be for you, from Misha. In terms of water issue in the overlapping areas between pluvial stormwater system and fluvial system, how do you foresee the EU regulation and practice evolving in the upcoming years? And a second part of the question is, do we and stakeholders have a common understanding of the need to implement and utilize the integrated urban catchment analysis and management? So as it goes into a bit of forcing on EU regulation, I'm assuming it will be for you, Johannes.
So we don't make a distinction between urban and rural. Everything is covered by the Floods Directive. On the question about how will the interplay between flood risk management and stormwater evolve, the reply is that very recently the new urban wastewater treatment directive was adopted. It will come into force soon. And this new urban wastewater treatment directive foresees the elaboration of stormwater management plans. And these stormwater management plans will have the managers, the experts who will prepare those plans. It will be gradual, depending on the population of its city. those experts who will be responsible for preparing those plans obviously will have to get in touch with the flood risk management experts in that country, so that the flood risk management plans and the stormwater management plans are coordinated.
Thank you. We had a question for you, Christine. In your experience, how do you think the European level could support you in implementing water resilience action? Do you have in mind any particular barriers that could be overcome through a new regulatory framework or funding scheme?
I think, yes, I think the most difficult is to receive funding for the implementation of all these topics, because even if nature-based solutions are, I think they are not projects on themselves. They have to be integrated in every new project in the city, from the public spaces and in the private, and also in the private space, and they have to be part of each single project that is in the city. But I think probably one thing, the maintenance of this nature-based solution, I think in Italy in Milan we are trying to, the cost of this are inside the water cost of the water billing of the and I think this could be a good idea, because everyone have to every citizen have to contribute to this issue. Another thing is yes, I think these are the main. So there is another question, probably no. For me, no. It was the only one.
Thank you. I think then I will move maybe Alejandro, Silvia, potentially Cecilia, also a bit on a joint question that was asked in the chat on how easy do you think is it to replicate the solution that we discussed today across Europe? And of course, the question of different political and regulatory frameworks that are around it. So if you have any experience on it, I think, Cecilia, you mentioned also that now you can build like digital twins, already check everything. So maybe you want to go first, and then we can see Silvia, Alejandro, if you want to add something.
I can say that from a regulatory perspective, I mean, we're not setting up anything. What we are doing as technology providers is to support the creation of value that can be used to apply to these regulations. For example, one of the things that I'm always saying is that data is different from information. Because although today we have access to a lot of data, we need to understand what that data is telling us so that we can make better decisions. And so our role here is to really support users that are trying to make use of that data to do the best projects and to implement the best actions or insights in terms of supporting these policies.
Thank you. Silvia or Alejandro, do you want to add something on that topic?
Silvia? Okay.
You can,
okay.
you can
You
start.
first.
Me first. No, I'm participating on several working groups because we want to implement now that the urban wastewater treatment plant directive has been launched, the recasted, every member state has to implement the new regulation in the national law. I think there is a strong will to make the the requirements uniform in Europe, of course, and to implement nature-based solutions. So we are forced to do that, and we are forced to do this together. So I think, let's say we are on the right path. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Again, taking advantage of what Silvia said. Thank you, Silvia. And as a part of the member of the Water Positive think tank, we have a huge possibility being one step ahead. Why? Because the Water Positive as the carbon negative initiative is working only in the additionality. Then for some corporation, actually, I know 4 corporations working in this opportunity as a compensation. Unfortunately, I live in close to Valencia, 100 kilometers to Valencia. I live in Alicante. We have enough data to predict the future. The World Bank was in the last water report was very, very clear. Too much, too little, and pollution about water. For that reason, everything that we were discussing or sharing during this webinar is a must to predict the future. And in terms of water positivity, is a huge and a powerful opportunity to compensate water that we don't have now. But if we take into consideration Valencia, and I take the Cecilia words, and we compare the cost of the damage comparing with only with the prevention. And I am not blaming anyone, because here we don't receive rain frequently. For that reason, it is very easy to say we should do this, and this, but it's education. We were talking about collaboration, but the SDG 4 is very, very important as well. It's education. Now everybody's talking about potential problems. For that reason, digitalization and data is very, very important, very, very important. But more important is to be one step ahead. Obviously, it is not perfect what we have on our hands, but we have to start yesterday.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We had one more question, but I think it was for Ioannis on the Q&A, so I will send it to him after it. We had one in the chat, but it has been replied as well. And because we are reaching the end of the webinar, I would like to ask each of the speaker for a 1-minute final statement. And I will start. Christine, please.
What do you mean with statement?
Just one final statement, if you want to conclude on just one point that you either has not discussed, or if you have one final just to thanks everyone, or if you, yeah.
It was a very, very interesting webinar. I hope to keep also in touch with the other panelists, because I think there are new connections, as Cecilia said before. And also,
Thank you, Silvia.
Yes, it's the same for me, Christine. I'm also very happy. I discovered few new things. I still believe in nature-based solution, and I hope that this initiative will also help the awareness among the professionals and who's implementing the policy.
Thank you very much, Cecilia.
Well, I want to congratulate the things that have been said here today in the presentations. I can see that in Europe, we are in the right track. Although we many times say that we still need to put water more in the agenda, we can see that a lot of things are being done, and in the right way that we think, at least at this moment, as we discussed before. And the other aspect that I want to say is that sometimes I usually say that the water professional does not dissociate, the things that they do from their work. So if you know about water and you're on a holiday and you see water, you will be engaged with that. So I do think that we have a duty, we have a responsibility to make things change. And I hope that this webinar can actually give that confidence to people, the things that they have heard, the presentation from Christine, that they can be part of this change. We do not have to do things as usual. We can actually be here, and I would say this is a call for action from everyone hearing this, to be part of this change that we want to have in this livable world that we want, where we reduce risk, we improve the safety of people, and contribute for the sustainability and resilience of the places we live.
Thank you very much. Alejandro?
Thank you, Arthur. I will close with something very, very fast. The best moment to think about water was 20 years ago. The second best moment is right now. For that reason, let's start tomorrow.
Thank you very much. So I would like to thank all speakers and all participants as well. It was really great to engage with all of you. Really learn a lot. I think we can be happy with the quality of the discussions today. And I would like also to thank Bentley for supporting us in organizing that webinar, and to thank all of you speakers and also participants for taking the time to join us today. Just a quick info on EWA. So we will have a next event will be 23rd in January with an introduction course to EU water policy and legislation. So we'll go on a Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive recast, Water Framework Directive, Foods Directive, Drinking Water Directive, and so on. You can also, I think some of you already do it, find us on LinkedIn, our website, our YouTube channel. You will all receive the link for the presentation and where the webinar will be uploaded. And you can subscribe to our newsletter. And I would like to, when you will leave the webinar, you will have a quick survey. It will take 2 minutes. We'll be grateful if you can provide your feedback, and it will help us to get better and better and to adjust the format from this type of event. So once again, thank you very much. I wish you a good day. And because it's already December, I would say a good festive season for everyone a bit in advance. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.